Mashiyach is at Mount Moriah. He's in the company of who? How many? Two. Okay. Let's read.
Genesis 22, verse 4. Then on the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the donkey, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, and laid it upon Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both of them together.
Stop right there. Abraham took the what? Wood, and he did what with it?
That's deep. Yeah.
What happened with Hamashiach? Isaac carried his wood. Hamashiach gonna do what? Carry his. But all of this is a lamb now. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb?
Stop right there. You remember when we read earlier in Isaiah 53? Like a lamb being what? Led to the slaughter. Abraham is leading Isaac to where? The slaughter. Hamashiach is going to be what? Led to the slaughter. First there's prison and judgment. All of it going to come back to the same place. But let's read.
Genesis 22, verse 7. Started that.
And I ain't going to deal with the third day yet, because Abraham did what on the what day? Third day. Because that'll take us way off into something. I ain't going to go there today. Go ahead.
Genesis 22, verse 7. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, Elohim will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering.
Stop. That's a game changer right there. Let's pay attention to what he says. Go ahead.
So they went both of them together, and they came to the place which Elohim had told him of. And Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the Malachim, or the messenger of Yahuah, called unto him out of Shamayim or heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said,
Stop right there. Let's go back to what Isaac asked his father something. He asked him a question about where is the what?
Genesis 22, verse 7. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering?
Listen to Abraham's response. And his reply, how he replies to Isaac. Pay very close attention to what he said and read it in slow-mo.
Yes. Verse 8. And Abraham said, My son, Elohim will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering.
Stop right there. Elohim will provide himself. Elohim will provide himself a what? Lamb for what? A burnt offering. Go ahead.
So they went, both of them, together. Verse 9. And they came to the place which Elohim had told him of. And Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel or the messenger of Yahuah called unto him out of Shamayim or heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not your hand upon the lad.
Lay not your hand upon the lad.
Neither do you anything unto him. For now I know that you fearest Elohim.
So the whole test was to what? Try Abraham, for Abraham to see what? If he feared Elohim. So obedience. Go ahead. Talk about it all.
Nah, that's it. It's about, I was just getting ready to say about obedience. Go ahead, Moray.
Right, so it was to test Abraham's obedience.
Mm-hmm.
How do we know we're obedient to, we fear Elohim?
When we keep his commandments.
We keep his commandment, obedience.
So, did he know that, well, in verse, so did he know that the Most High wasn't going to make him kill his son? Or, because, so what's the purpose of the verse that you read, the last verse that you read, or that you said already? I lost it.
The one about Yahuah shall provide, because it has nothing to do with Abraham. It has to do with all of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they say Yahuah will what? Provide himself a land. This is very important. I want y'all to pay attention and pay close attention to everything I'm saying. This is why we're pointing out Abraham and his only begotten at Mount Moriah, carrying his own wood, being led to his sacrifice. So you got Yahuah's only begotten, which is Mashiyach. You remember he carried his own wood, being led to his sacrifice. At where? Mount Moriah, at the exact same place that this took place.
Right.
That's the whole purpose of me saying that, but we're fixing to get to something right here that's very important, and it should give clarity.
Something that's kind of stuck out to me is where he said that Yahuah will provide himself.
Mm-hmm. But we're fixing to get to the cream that goes on top of that.
Okay.
Go ahead, Al.
So it was just a shadowing of things to come.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But go ahead.
Verse 12 again. And he said, lay not your hand upon the lad, neither do you anything unto him. For now I know that you fearest Elohim, seeing you has not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up.
Stop right there. Abraham lifted his eyes and he did what? He did what?
He saw a ram.
He saw a ram where?
Behind him.
Behind him. That's the key to understanding what's going on here. Whenever you're reading Hebrew literature or prophecies or anything dealing with the scriptures, whenever something like this or a passage or prophecy at some point and the direction given is behind, automatically those that understand Hebrew, biblical Hebrew and reading, they automatically know that points you to where? The future. It had nothing to do with then. It had everything to do with what was going to come later. That's why he said Elohim has what? Provided himself with the land. And so when we look, Abraham looks behind him, he sees what? He sees, but what position is his ram in?
Caught.
He caught in the thicket. Didn't we just read about thorns and thistles and all earlier?
Yeah.
But how is this ram caught in the thicket?
by
That's
his
his
So if I wanted to place a crown upon somebody, because what I'm fixing to say now is very key.
Okay.
How would, let's say if you was, and this was a coronation or something like that, and you're king, and you're fixing now crown your newly beloved Yashra'al bride, queen, how would you do it? How would you do it? The physical manner of how you would do it.
I would pick it up and put it on her head. Very, very,
But how would you pick it up?
with both hands.
You pick it up what? Both hands, you would do what?
Place it on her head.
You would place it on her head.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the crown of thorns being placed on Hamashiach's head, someone would have had to what?
Put it on there.
Taken their hands, placed it on his head. Right?
Right.
So, when we talk about these sin offerings and guilt offerings and such, what is the job of the high priest?
To do
Do he not have to take what? Both hands and do what? Lay it on the head of the what? Of the ram or the lamb or the goat. The guilt offering. And when he lays his hand upon the what? The head of that what? Sacrifice. He confesses what?
the sin.
The sins of the people. Y'all don't find it strange? When they took Mashiyach, what was one of the first things they did? Did they not begin to strike him and beat him and punch him in his face, laying their hands on his head? And what was the thing? Even though the scripture said there was no guile found in his mouth, and they could find no sin, but a confession was made. But it wasn't a confession of Mashiyach. It was confession of the guilty, because they accused him of what? They began to beat him in his face and do what? They accused him of what? Being a blasphemer. But who was actually blaspheming? They were the guilty.
So the guilty applied the sin upon his face, and
Right, so when it came to the scapegoat, or
right,
the priest had to do what?
laid a crown on his head.
Lay his hands on his
Lay
head.
his hands on his head.
Right. He had to lay hands on his head and confess the sins of the people.
Right.
And so this is what you got with Yahusha. They're laying hands on his head and they're what?
Confessing.
Confessing. They were the blasphemers. Not him, because it already said no guile or anything was found in him.
Right.
So that's why it's very important to see what's going on with this lamb, see what's going on all the way from the back from the beginning. Let's go look at Abraham. Let's see what's going on with Isaac. Because these stories and stuff, they're not in there just to be in there. They're in there for a reason. And so when you get through seeing all this with Isaac, you know it's part of a chapter before you hear the word Isaac ever come up again. And the next time you hear of Isaac, what's taking place in the scriptures? He sent his servants to find Isaac a wife. After Hamashiach sacrifice, when's the next time we hear from him?
After he descends, you mean after Hamashiach, after he what?
After his sacrifice?
Sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
After he died on the cross?
And after he went back to his father.
Well, he appears in the
Also, when's the next time we will hear from him?
when we will hear from him?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, when he comes back to deliver, to pick up his bride.
the marriage supper when he comes to receive his bride. You see the pattern? After Abraham's sacrifice of the whole ordeal with Isaac, you don't hear from Isaac again. The next time you hear from him or hear his name mentioned in Scripture, his father has sent his servants to find him a wife. So there's fixing to be a marriage to take place. After Mashiyach's sacrifice and ascension, the next time we hear from him is when? At the marriage, when he comes to receive his bride. You see the same pattern? It's all about the Lamb, going back to the beginning and moving all the way forward. You can't get around it. So when we get into Isaiah 53, we're going to go cover some more stuff, some other passages, and we're going to deal with Leviticus, and we're going to look at these offerings and see the role they play and see the steps and procedures taken when these offerings are being performed. And then you will see all of this stuff, acted out and take place with the people and Mashiyach. You cannot get Isaiah 53 mixed up thinking it's Israel. Not when you go back and read. But you can't just go read Isaiah 53 and not read Isaiah 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 53. Right. There's many conversations, but they've been discussed. You have one individual who's been discussed as well as a servant, and you also have Israel being discussed collectively as a servant. And so this is what's taking place here. So let's go look at Yahuah 1 and 29. Then I'm going to have one more scripture to read after that, and then we're going to cut it off.
Yahuah or John 1 verse 29. The next day, Yahuah or John seeth Mashiyach coming unto him, and he saith, Behold, the Lamb of Elohim, which taketh away the sin of the world.
So automatically, when you say, Behold, the Lamb of Yahuah, which taketh away the sins of the world, you should automatically know what that is pertaining to and what particular offering that's pertaining to. Because y'all remember when we talked about what? The scapegoat? Now all of it comes back into mind? And how they place hands upon what? The goat? Confess the sins. One goat was saved and another one was sent off where? Into the wilderness. And you're going to see the same thing with Mashiyach. You know that he wasn't crucified inside of Jerusalem, but outside. But remember, when we read Isaiah 53, it said he will be cut off from the people. You remember when a leper was unclean, he had to cover himself. And if anybody got near before they could touch him or get near, he would shout what? A cry, unclean. But where did the lepers reside? They were cut off from the people and outside. You can't go wrong with this book. It doesn't make mistake. It is what it is, y'all. Now let's go to Yahuah, same chapter, but verses 48 through 51.
Yahuah or John 1 verse 48. Nathanael saith unto him, Whence knowest you me? Mashiyach answered and said unto him, Before that Philip called you, when you was under the fig tree, I saw you. Nathanael answered and saith unto him, Rabbi, you art the son of Elohim. You art the king of Yashra'al or Israel. Yahusha Mashiyach answered and said unto him, Because I saith unto you, I saw you under the fig tree, believest you? You shall see greater things than these. And he saith unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto you, hereafter you shall see Shamahim or heaven open, and the messengers or the angels of Elohim ascending and descending upon the Son of Man.
You saw what on the thing he said? He said, you are what? He identified him as what? King of Israel. How did he know that? We act like they didn't have, they still didn't have access to Torah scrolls and stuff at this time. They had read. There was an oral history. It was spoken of what would happen, how he would come. Matter of fact, let's go back to that verse. Go about a couple of verses before that. Before 48.
John 1 verse 45. Philip findeth Nathanael and saith unto him, We have found him of whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write, Yahusha a Mashiyach of Nazareth, the son of Yahusha or Joseph. Continue. 46. And Nathanael said unto him, Can there any good thing come out of Nazareth? Philip saith unto him, Come and see. Yahusha HaMashiach saw Nathanael coming to him, and saith of him, Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom is no guile.
In whom is no what?
No guile. Nathanael saith unto him, Whence knowest thou me? Yahusha HaMashiach answered and said unto him, Before that Philip called you, when you was under the fig tree, I saw you. Nathanael answered and saith unto him, Rabbi, you art the son of Elohim. You art the king of Yashra'al or Israel. Yahusha HaMashiach answered and said unto him, Because I said unto you, I saw you under the fig tree, believe it's you? You shall see greater things than these. And he said unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto you, hereafter you shall see Shamahim or heaven open,